What's up, guys? I think we can all agree that Cartoon Network was an experience. You weren't just watching the shows, you were buying the merchandise, you were playing the online flash games, and you were also watching the bumpers. Cartoon Network would always have bumpers playing before and after the commercials. So today we're going to talk about some bumpers you may or may not remember, what the commercials were all about, and what kind of shows they had during those eras. Please know that I'm not going through all the bumper eras, just some of them. So without further ado, let's get into it. Up first, we got Powerhouse. This was the third era of Cartoon Network and it ran from 1998 to 2004. The name of this era comes from the musical composer known as Raymond Scott. His musical composition Powerhouse showcases the musical and graphical themes of the bumpers. And in those bumpers, you would see the older cartoons. You know, the predecessors, the OGs, if you will. A whole lot of... In these bumpers, you would see cartoons like Looney Tunes, Robot Jones, and others just get into the regular shenanigans. And this is also the era where some of the early 2000s greats came out. Courage the Cowardly Dog, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Powerpuff Girls, and a few others. Now, I was only alive during the last years of the Powerhouse era, so I didn't really get to experience most of it. But I was familiar with all the cartoons thanks to Boomerang, which is the channel where all the oldies went after the era was over. So I didn't get to experience this era at its prime, but I am grateful for one thing. Now, when I'm watching 90s cartoons and someone asks me, "What you know about this?" I can be like, I know a little bit. Up next, we got the Cartoon Network City era. If you were born in the early 2000s, you may know this era like the back of your hand. This bumper era had a short run, only going from 2004 to 2006. But despite its short time, this might be the bumper era that's remembered the most. Now, the bumper eras are in the title, Cartoon Network City. It's a big CGI animated city where all the cartoons happen to live in. This was the era where Cartoon Network just didn't miss. Teen Titans, Billy and Mandy, Kids Next Door, the works. This is also the era where Ben 10, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and lesser known Juniper Lee premiered. The bumpers this era had were just cartoons living their day-to-day lives. You could see Professor Utonium pumping gas. He had Zephyrin around as usual, or showcasing a particular area from a cartoon. There was a bunch of them, and I don't think any kid during that era watched them all in one sitting. And when looking at the CGI, I can understand why it didn't last so long. They were always a treat to see, but I can imagine it was getting expensive for them. But despite being short-lived, it made its mark. Like I said, no misses. Well, except for my gym partner Zamonkey. That was kind of ass. Up next, we got the Nudes/Tunics era. And I know what you're thinking. Why are you combining two eras? And the answer is simple. Cause I feel like... Sorry. Nudes and Tunics are basically the same era. One just happened in the States and the other happened in Latin America. Now here's where Cartoon Network nearly starts the 2010s era. Meaning a lot of classics came to an end. But there was also a lot of good ones. Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, Generator Rex, Adventure Time, and Chowder. People still like Chowder, right?
You take the moon, now you take the moon,
Now the Nudes are these bowling pin looking dummies right here. And when the bumpers came on, they'd just be doing random things. With these bumpers, you would have these regular nudes that were treated like a canvas. These colorful balls would show up, and when it hit the nude, it became a character. And it doesn't have to be a character, it could just be a simple color, and it would become that color. And the same thing applies to the Tunics, they just happen to be more square-like. Now, Tunics ran from 2010 to 2012, lasting about as long as the Nudes did. But there's two things that the Tunics had that the Nudes didn't. Tunics had short animations that would play on the channel from time to time, and they had an online computer game. And it makes sense, the Tunics look more marketable. Now, I have mixed feelings about these eras. The bumpers were nice, and I don't need to speak on how great Adventure Time is. But a lot of good shows came to an end, and this is where Cartoon Network just wasn't hitting as hard as they used to. But regardless, this was a good era to be in. And fun fact, the Nudes and Tunics made an appearance in the show OKKO Let's Be Heroes. Very solid show. Give it a shot. Up next, we got the Check It era. Now, this era actually spent a generous amount of time off Cartoon Network, starting from 2010 all the way to 2016. The executives must have really liked it. Sir, don't you think we should move on from the Check It era by now? We don't pay you to ask these questions. But sir, check it, son. What? Now the best word for these bumpers is variety. It could be a colorful coming up next. You would see characters interacting with each other again. Some odd but nice artistic creations. And some other interesting animations. Now I like this era a little better than the last one, but it was still a mixed bag for me. Some of the bumpers were nice, but others were just meh. They still had quality with them though. They still had Adventure Time, regular show came out, Symbionic Titan. But then they also had shows like Incredible Crew and Uncle Grandpa. Yeah. But despite my feelings on those, I do hold a soft spot for this era. This was during a time when I was eating Lunchables and had less responsibilities. Nostalgia is a wonderful feeling, and I'm glad the live action shows stopped coming out. And finally, we have the Dimensional era. The follow-up to Check It lasted from 2016 to 2021. Now here's the thing about this era's bumpers. They weren't that different from Check It's. It still features transitions with almost the same color scheme, but I think the main difference is that they put a little more effort into the animations of these bumpers. Some were kind of freaky, and some were really unique. Now here's the thing about this era, I feel like it's here that me and a lot of other fans just moved on from the channel. The greats they had ran their course. And now their lineup has bad reboots and stuff like Apple and Onion. Who made this shit? When your lineup only has one great show and the rest is just mediocre, you know it's a bad look. Now I can't speak too much on this era because I wasn't on Cartoon Network like that when it rolled around. But there's always the future and the next era might be a great one. You just need more of this and less of this. And we are done. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. My socials will be in the description. And please tell me, what do you think about each of these arrows? Which one is your favorite? Did you take a shot every time I said bumper? Are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments.